It's all rather convenient if you think about it, the way Eric Trump and his brother Don Jr. before him simply were not able to recall the specifics of several major financial statements presented to them in court documents. The New York Attorney General says were grossly inflated to benefit the Trump Organization documents that bear their own signatures. That's been the name of the game today for the Trump boys this week, as Jimmy Kimmel quipped, being tried as adults in the $250 million civil fraud trial in Manhattan. What statements of financial condition, they've asked. What accounting standards? Don Jr. finished his testimony this morning, and then his co-defendant, his brother Eric, at least tried to pick up where his brother left off, blame shifting, suggesting they don't remember anything. It was just the accountants and their fault. They were the ones paying attention. That strategy might have taken a little bit of a hit today when things got testy in the courtroom. Shortly after Eric Trump testified that he'd never worked on the Trump Org statement of financial condition, that he didn't know anything about it. Until the case came to fruition, the AG's office got him to acknowledge he was aware of those statements as far back as 2013. And then there's Ivanka. Ivanka is supposed to testify next week, but just in the last hour, like father, like daughter, not only did Ivanka and her legal team file a notice appealing the order for her testimony, but they're also asking for a stay of the whole trial while that appeal is considered. Joining our coverage, New York Times investigative reporter Sue Craig is back with us, plus Assistant U.S. Attorney and MSNBC legal analyst Glenn Kirshner's here, and Tim is still with us. Sue Craig, it sounds like things got pretty real today. Take us inside.
Hey, Nicole, we've got some New York life behind me.
Yes.
But I'll just start by talking a little bit about, I actually didn't hear your questions. So.
Just tell me what happened today.
We should just start off with
yeah.
Okay, well, that's an easy one. I was going to guess that. So there we go. It's gone. But we'll start off with there. I did catch the video at the beginning, and I think what the Attorney General, the lawyers today did with Eric is sort of neatly take some of his deposition testimony and then show what he's saying in court, which certainly comes, across as contradictions. There were things where he said, I didn't remember or I wasn't involved. And then they would have emails up on the screen where over and over he was asked first about those statements of financial condition where he really is saying he really didn't know much of anything about them in the depositions. And he's asked about them repeatedly by different staff members. And then I want to take you in just to one very interesting example that just happened that was so striking. And it comes back to that quote that we've talked about and that people have been playing about Eric Trump, where he said in his deposition, and I want to quote the full quote this time. He starts out by saying, as we all know, that I pour concrete, which, we can, discuss at length about that. But it finishes, I operate properties and I don't focus on appraisals. And I can tell you most of the afternoon was focused on appraisals and what Eric Trump knew about appraisals. And it's interesting, in the off days here, there was an appraiser who came in from Cushman Wakefield and talked about his many interactions with Eric Trump and how they had gone back and forth on the appraisal of in this case, Seven Springs, which is an estate in Westchester that Donald Trump bought in the 1990s. And Eric Trump wanted the appraisal higher. At one point, the appraiser said of this was a few days ago, that Eric had ideas that were more lofty. And today we hear there was a lot of back and forth on it about how Eric wanted that appraisal higher. And then the allegation is when he didn't like what he saw, they simply didn't use it. So that's the sort of exchanges that we're seeing today. Eric is on the stand through today. I think he's still up. I had to leave early. It was just it was heating up when I left, and he probably will be up tomorrow as well.
Sue, Don Jr. said this, and this seems to be sort of the point of everything. Quote, you pay experts millions of dollars to be experts. You sign off on what they give you, and you're liable. I mean, that's kind of how it works, right?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, they're saying they relied on experts, and we've heard that over and over, that either they don't remember or they relied on experts. And then the next tranche of that is we relied on experts, and in fact, we don't have a problem with the numbers that the experts came up with, and we don't have a problem if the banks relied on it. They're not even giving on the square footage issue at the triplex that Donald Trump owns in Trump Tower. And the issue there, I think it's familiar to a lot of people, because it's roughly around 10,000 square feet, and it had been put down on a number of documents that were submitted to financial institutions saying it was triple that amount. And they're just not, they're not giving an inch on any of this stuff in court today. They're not saying, oh yeah, even that was a mistake or it shouldn't have happened. We're not seeing that anywhere. It's more, I don't remember, but even if I did remember, everything was fine.
And Glenn Kirshner, is a legal strategy when fraud has been found, when the judge has already ruled that they are liable for fraud, and it's a matter of determining the consequences. Is that a good legal strategy for them to deploy?
Nicole, the best legal strategy would be for them to plead the fifth and put it all behind them. Because as you say, Judge Engoron has already found that they are liable for massive fraud. And now it's all about the disgorgement. How much will they be made to pay back, and whether they can continue to do business in New York or not. And so, today it sounds like was sort of characterized by answers like, not me, I wasn't involved, and I don't recall. First of all, I don't recall is not a perjury-proof answer, and we can circle back to that. But the other thing that we keep hearing, as Suzanne was just saying, is they're blaming it on the accountants. Well, again, let's set aside that Don Jr. was the certifying signature on some of these documents. But okay, let's put to the test your claim that you're blaming it on the accountants. You misrepresented your father's penthouse to be 30,000 feet when, in fact, it was 10,000 square feet or a little over that. Are you saying that the accountants went into the penthouse with a tape measure and blew it by 20,000 feet? Was that the accountant's role? No. That, kind of reporting of facts and information to the accountants is obviously on the Trumps. So, anywhere that they turn with these answers, I think they're going to lose. I'm not sure how gullible they believe Judge Engoron is that he's falling for any of this. And I've sort of maintained all along that they better be really careful, or they're going to walk right in to a perjury charge if Letitia James believes that she can prove that they are making materially false statements under oath.
I mean, to me.